going to show you our latest project that we're working on. This is a 2012 Audi A8. The reason why we've got this car is the customer originally wanted the A8 that had the Bang & Olufsen system in it. The car was not available, so the dealership actually sent him to us to do some audio upgrades. When we're done with this, we know that this car is going to sound a lot better than the Bang & Olufsen system. We actually listened to one last week just to use it as a reference point. It's not even going to come close to what we're going to do here. As you can see, the car is getting prepared for us to do our work. All the door edges are taped off like we normally do to protect the car. The car only has 150 miles on it, so we want to make sure that there's no evidence of us being in this car when we're done. So let's go ahead and go inside and show you what the factory stuff is, and then we'll show you later what the aftermarket stuff's going to be like. So this car is equipped with the factory Bose system, which is a 14-speaker system. It currently has a factory woofer, mid-range in the door, tweeters up in the dash, center channel. The rears also consist of a three-way system, and then there's a subwoofer in the rear deck. Here's what the door looks like with the factory speakers still in it. Here's one of the factory front woofers pulled out of the vehicle. As you can see, it's in a plastic enclosure, just a 5-inch woofer. Customer's biggest complaint with this system is it had no impact, no definition, also had no volume as well. You could pretty much turn the volume all the way up and really have a comfortable conversation over the audio system. What we plan on doing in the doors is we're not going to put a three-way system back in. We're actually going to put a set of Audison Bose separates in here, 6-inch woofer in the door with baffles made out of Baltic birch. Tweeter will be up in the factory location. We will still use the factory center channel mainly just for the navigation, Bluetooth, things like that. But we are not going to put a mid-range in here. And the reason why we're doing that is because we're going to be using an Audison Bit1 processor. We're going to amplify separately the tweeters, and then we're going to amplify the woofers and the doors. Then we're going to amplify the rears together as a passive network, and then the subwoofer will have a third amplifier as well. So let's go ahead and show you the back of the car. So the rear of the car, means that this is the A8L, the rear is basically almost a separate audio system from the front. Granted, all the rear speakers do play through the front audio system, but the backseat passengers technically have their own entertainment system back here. Each headrest has an 8-inch screen in it. In the factory armrest that folds down, you have all of the audio controls for everything. So people back here can be listening to a movie, playing iPod, satellite radio, whatever they want to do, separately from what's going on up front. We're not going to be doing anything with this at all. This is all going to stay intact. We're mainly focusing on the audio for the driver more than anything. So in the rear, again, the car has a three-way system. It has a 6-inch woofer in the door. It has a 4-inch mid-range up in the rear deck. And then the tweeters are actually located in pillars here in between the front and rear doors. We've already removed those pillars, so we can't really show you where that's at. Again, what we're going to do is we're only going to put a Bose separate system in here. And the reason why we're doing that is this is not a true three-way system back here. The woofer and the tweeter are tied together on the same channel from the factory, and then the mid-range is on a separate channel. So the mid-range you really can't even hear to begin with from the factory, so we're really not going to utilize that location at all. We're also not going to utilize the factory sub-location that's in the back as well. So let's go ahead and show you the trunk now. So one of the challenges that you have with the new German cars is how sealed up the trunks are. It's really hard to get a lot of low-end bass out of these cars just because of that. You'll see that a lot of guys running around with their armrests drop down just so they can get the low end out. Or like what the factory has done here, they'll take the factory subwoofer and they'll put it up in the rear deck. As you can see, the factory sub's not really anything to write home about. It's just a free air 10-inch woofer that has no enclosure around it. Hence the reason why this car had no low-end impact at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to build an enclosure into the side panel here for a Hertz dual voice coil 12-inch woofer that's going to be running off of a monoblock HDP Hertz amplifier. This car is actually going to have 3 Hertz amplifiers when we're done, plus a Bit1 processor. We'll have one 4-channel amplifier that's going to run the front tweeters and the rear speakers. The other 4-channel amp is going to be bridged to the front woofers so we get more mid-bass up front. And then of course we'll have the monoblock in the back running the sub. When this car is done, you won't see anything back here at all except for the sub enclosure. The processor will be mounted up with the factory Bose amplifier that's up at the front of the seat there. The other 3 amplifiers we haven't decided quite yet, but they're either going to be mounted underneath the sub enclosure that we're building, or we'll put them over on the other side of the trunk. Alright folks, to continue on with the project that we're doing with the Audi, we now have basically the entire audio system installed minus the custom work that we're doing. We've built baffles out of Baltic birch for the Audison Voce mid-bass drivers. They were then covered in a spray-on sound deadening material, and then of course the whole entire door has been sound deadened as well with Dynamatic Stream on both the outer and the inner door skins. What you're not seeing is behind the woofer we also have Dynazorbs in there as well. And then what we'll do is we'll go up and show you what we've done with the tweeters now too. So what you see here is we've built custom panels for the Audison Voce tweeters up in the factory dash locations. We've built them out of ABS plastic. As you can see, we've actually physically built our own mold for the tweeters to go into. The tweeters are then slightly angled back towards the rearview mirror to help us with imaging and staging. We'll obviously get that dialed in a lot better with the Audison Bit 1 processor. Okay, now we're going to show you what we've done in the trunk. Obviously the idea behind this car is to keep it as factory looking as possible. So what we've done, we've taken the Bit 1 processor and we've custom built a bracket to mount it along with the factory Bose amplifier. This also makes it a little easier for us to get our signal wires that we need for the processor. Then if you come over into the corner, you can see where we've built a custom amp rack out of square tubing, welded it all up, and then bolted it into the car to hold the 3 amplifiers. The sub enclosure will then be built and go over the top of these, and we're also going to have a system in there for ventilation to keep the amplifiers cool. Okay, now we've got the car completely finished. As you can see, the car is completely reassembled. Again, the whole audio system was built to integrate with the factory system, so we're using the factory MMI to control everything. The only thing that we changed up here is that the customers now has a sub control to control the volume of the woofer, and what we've done is we've actually used the factory cigarette lighter to do that. So as you can see, we'll get some music playing here. Now he can turn the volume of the woofer up and down separately from the rest of the stereo, but it looks all factory when it's done. This car honestly is the best sounding car that we've ever put together. Again, what we have in here is we have the Audison Voce speakers up front. We've knocked the car from a 14 speaker system down to a 9 speaker system. No longer any factory center channel, no longer any mid-range in the doors, no longer any factory mid-range or factory subwoofer in the back. So we've got Voce separates up front, Voce separates in the back, the Hertz subwoofer and the 3 amplifiers, and then the Audison processor. So let's go back and show you what the finished product of the trunk's like. Okay, let's show you the finished product on the trunk. The original goal with the car was to keep it as factory looking as possible. So let's open the trunk and show you what we've done. So basically the Audison Bit 1 processor is hidden behind the factory panel up there. Again, it's mounted with the Bose amplifier that's back there. And then when you come over, you can see we built an enclosure off to the side that has the Hertz 12-inch woofer, and behind the Hertz 12-inch woofer is the 3 amplifiers. The carpet that we brought in is a factory Audi carpet, and then of course we've got a steel mesh over it that we painted gray to match the factory grills that are throughout the car. So as you can see, we didn't give up any trunk space. He still has access to his spare tire and the battery. The USB cable for the Bit 1s ran into the spare tire location so we can easily access it through all our tuning. And that's the finished product.